What if your prison cell was inside an abandoned medieval castle, cold, crumbling, and crawling with shadows of the past, or worse? What if you were locked underwater, surrounded by glass walls, the ocean watching your every move, but no way out? Sounds like a twisted scene from a movie, right? But this is not fiction. This is real. Welcome to the world's most bizarre prisons, where truth is stranger and scarier than imagination. We often think of prison as gray walls, iron bars, concrete floors, and screaming alarms, a place where lawbreakers are punished and society feels safe. But the world is a strange place, and not all prisons follow this blueprint. Some are located in the most unimaginable places, while others are so luxurious they seem more like vacation resorts than places of punishment. Then there are the terrifying ones, isolated, cruel, and designed to break the human spirit. So what makes a prison bizarre? It's not just the structure or the location. It's the rules, the environment, the design, and sometimes the very concept behind it. In one prison, inmates run their own mini-society, complete with markets and families. In another, prisoners are forced to dig trenches endlessly with no purpose, just to break their minds. From tropical islands with no guards to underground cells where the sun never shines, these places are not just unusual, they're shocking, confusing, and unforgettable. Some of these prisons treat inmates like humans, offering them freedom to cook, play sports, and even run businesses. But others go beyond traditional punishment. They aim to erase identity, crush rebellion, and control thought. The bizarre nature isn't always in the luxury or the cruelty, it's in the philosophy. Why are some countries building prisons where inmates have flat-screen TVs, while others bury prisoners alive in windowless concrete holes? Imagine being in a cell with no door. You sleep, eat, and live inside, but you're never truly locked in. No guards with guns, no metal detectors. Yet, no one escapes. Why? Because the prison itself is an island, surrounded by shark-infested waters and sheer cliffs. That's Devil's Island, a real place that once held the most dangerous criminals. Now picture the opposite, a cell so tightly controlled that even a sneeze without permission could lead to punishment. That's ADX Florence, known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Each bizarre prison you're about to explore has a story to tell, of survival, of insanity, of resistance, and sometimes of redemption. Some are terrifying warnings of how far humanity can go in the name of justice. Others raise deep questions. Are we locking people away to help them, hurt them, or forget them? In this eye-opening journey, we'll take you behind the bars of the strangest correctional facilities ever built, where justice meets mystery, and where the thin line between discipline and cruelty is constantly challenged. You'll visit a prison with no guards at all, yet perfectly controlled. A facility where inmates can go fishing and ride horses. A fortress where prisoners are blindfolded 24/7. An underwater prison concept that scientists once seriously proposed. And even one where prisoners pay rent to live in their cells. Get ready to witness places you won't believe exist, locked worlds hidden from the public eye, where the rules of reality are bent, reshaped, or completely thrown out. This isn't just a documentary about prisons. It's a look into the extreme corners of human psychology, justice systems, and how far we'll go to punish, rehabilitate, or isolate. So buckle up, because what happens inside these bizarre prisons will truly shock you. And once you see it, you'll never look at the idea of punishment the same way again. When you hear the word prison, you probably imagine filth, violence, and total misery. But in some countries, incarceration looks more like a luxury retreat than a punishment. Forget iron bars, cold cement, and overcrowded cells. How about private bathrooms, modern kitchens, flat-screen TVs, and even music studios? Welcome to the world's most luxurious prisons. Yes, they exist, and yes, they're controversial. Let's start with Halden Prison in Norway. On the outside, it looks like a sleek tech campus or a modern art museum. But on the inside, it's home to some of Norway's most serious criminals. Each inmate has a private room with a mini fridge, a TV, and even floor heating. The walls are painted in soft colors to avoid triggering aggression. There's no barbed wire in sight, just nature, walking trails, and silence. Now here's what will really surprise you. The guards don't carry guns. In fact, they eat with the inmates, play sports with them, and form human bonds. The philosophy behind Halden is simple but radical. Treat people like humans, even when they've made terrible choices. The belief is that dignity breeds rehabilitation. And the results? Norway has one of the lowest reoffending rates in the world, but Halden is just the beginning. Travel south to Bastøy Prison, also in Norway, and you'll find an entire prison island that looks like a summer camp. No fences, no armed guards. Prisoners live in cabins, cook their own meals, and even work on farms. There's a beach, horseback riding, fishing, and access to education. Inmates earn money to buy food, clothes, and supplies, just like free citizens. Critics say this is too soft, but defenders argue it's smarter justice. Instead of breaking people down, these prisons try to build them up, to give them hope, purpose, and a real chance at returning to society. This approach has caught attention across Europe. Sollentuna Prison in Sweden features state-of-the-art gyms, comfy bedding, and designer furniture. Inmates can study, meditate, and even cook gourmet meals in communal kitchens. And Aranjuez Prison in Spain? It allows families to live together, including children, so inmates can build strong parental bonds during their sentences. Compare that to the average U.S. prison, where overcrowding, gang violence, and lack of mental health support are the norm. It makes you question, what's more effective, punishment or prevention, suffering or second chances? But it's not all smooth sailing and luxury lockups. The concept of luxury prisons for the rich has also sparked global outrage. In El Salvador, some high-level inmates allegedly paid for VIP treatment, air-conditioned cells, private meals, and even female visitors. In Indonesia, certain prisons were caught offering celebrity packages for wealthy inmates, soft beds, parties, and even spa treatments. Corruption turned punishment into a business, raising serious questions about justice being sold to the highest bidder. Meanwhile, in South Korea, a prison-themed retreat allows free citizens to experience jail for self-reflection. Visitors voluntarily lock themselves up in minimalist rooms, surrender their phones, and live on prison food for 24 hours. Some say it brings peace. Others call it a disturbing trend where freedom is taken for fun, while real prisoners suffer in silence elsewhere. The line between punishment and privilege is clearly blurred. Are luxury prisons a progressive step toward rehabilitation, or are they a dangerous illusion, hiding inequality under soft pillows and yoga mats? Let's not forget, even in these seemingly perfect prisons, inmates aren't free. They still live under rules, routines, and consequences. They've lost the freedom to walk away, to hug family anytime, or to simply choose where to go. No amount of comfort can replace that. But here's the twist. Many former inmates from these luxurious prisons report genuine personal growth. They leave with skills, education, and a stronger mental state. Compare that to harsher prisons, where many leave more violent, more broken, and more likely to return. So which is better? Brutality that scares, or compassion that heals? The truth might lie in balance. Prisons don't have to be palaces. But maybe they don't need to be hell either. Because at the end of the day, the goal should be change, not revenge. If luxury prisons left you shocked, get ready to step into the other extreme, the dark, disturbing world of the cruelest prison designs ever built. These are not places of second chances. They are machines built to break minds, places where the architecture itself is a form of torture, where prisoners don't just lose their freedom, they lose their sense of reality. Let's begin with Black Dolphin Prison in Russia. Tucked near the Kazakhstan border, it is one of the most feared and secretive maximum security prisons in the world. Home to cannibals, serial killers, and terrorists, this place is the final stop for the most dangerous criminals in Russia. But what makes it truly terrifying isn't just the prisoners, it's how they're treated. Inmates here are blindfolded during every movement, so they never learn the layout of the prison. They're bent at a 90-degree angle while walking, hands cuffed behind their backs. They are escorted by 2 guards and a dog at all times. Cells are sealed with 3 layers of steel doors, and prisoners are watched 24/7 through cameras. They're not allowed to rest during the day. If they try to sit or lie down, alarms go off. They spend 23 hours a day in their cells with no human interaction, no privacy, and no contact with the outside world. Food is slid through a small slot. There are no windows, no conversations, just silence, concrete, and endless surveillance. This is not rehabilitation, it's psychological suffocation. Now travel to the United States, to ADX Florence, also known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies. This is where the U.S. keeps its most high-profile criminals, terrorists, cartel leaders, and violent masterminds. It's been called the most secure prison in America, but others call it a modern-day dungeon. Each prisoner is locked alone in a small concrete cell for 22 to 23 hours a day. Meals are passed through a slot in the door. There's no communal area, no recreation yard, just an enclosed exercise room where the sky is visible only through a tiny slit. The beds, desk, and toilet are made of concrete. The lights are always on. Many inmates slowly lose their minds from the isolation. Former warden Robert Hood once said, "It's not designed for humanity, it's designed for warehousing people." And that's exactly what it does. Human warehousing. In North Korea, prisoners in political camps face something even worse: forced labor camps that resemble Nazi-era concentration camps. Survivors report stories of starvation, torture, and public executions. Families are jailed together, sometimes for generations, based on the guilt by association rule. Children grow up knowing only fear, chains, and silence. Then there's Gitarama Prison in Rwanda, designed for 400 inmates but often holds over 4,000. Conditions are so horrific that prisoners stand for hours in knee-deep sewage, and many die of infections, untreated wounds, or sheer exhaustion. It's not a prison, it's a graveyard where the living rot slowly. Some prisons are designed to confuse and disorient. In South America, certain jails are built like labyrinths, narrow tunnels, split-level staircases, and maze-like corridors that make escape impossible and navigation maddening. Even guards get lost. Prisoners feel like rats in an experiment, constantly being watched, manipulated, and tested. And in China, detention centers have been accused of surveillance-based mind control. In some facilities, inmates are fitted with headgear that detects brain activity. If their thoughts are deemed unstable, they're isolated or reconditioned. It sounds like science fiction, but it's happening behind locked doors and state censorship. Why are these places allowed to exist? The answer is chilling, because fear works. These prisons are meant to terrify society, crush rebellion, and erase identity. They are not built for reform, they are built for control. But here's the cost. Thousands of inmates develop mental illnesses, suffer permanent psychological damage, or take their own lives. Solitary confinement has been linked to hallucinations, suicidal thoughts, and total personality collapse. In many cases, prisoners enter as criminals, but leave as broken shells of human beings. So while some nations treat prisoners with dignity and aim to heal, others choose to punish so harshly that the punishment itself becomes a form of madness. These aren't just prisons, they're nightmares made real. Cold, cruel, calculated systems where even a breath can feel like rebellion. Places where justice crosses the line and becomes something darker. And the scariest part? Most of us will never see what happens inside. Imagine waking up to the sound of crashing waves, birds in the distance, and a cool ocean breeze brushing your skin. Sounds like paradise, right? Now imagine that same paradise is your prison, and there's no way off the island. Welcome to the world's most unusual prison locations, where nature itself becomes the warden, and escape is not just hard, it's suicidal. Let's begin with one of the strangest correctional facilities on Earth, San Pedro Prison in La Paz, Bolivia. This prison has no guards inside, no bars between inmates, and no real cells in the traditional sense. Instead, it operates like a miniature city. Here's the bizarre twist. Inmates buy or rent their own cells, often with their families living alongside them. There are restaurants, shops, hair salons, and even a church, all run by inmates. Children go to school inside the prison. The economy is completely self-sufficient. It's chaotic, dangerous, and entirely surreal. But the weirdest part? Tourists used to be allowed to visit. Some even spent the night for the thrill. Yes, outsiders once paid to sleep inside a functioning prison. Although the Bolivian government eventually banned tours, the legend of San Pedro continues as a symbol of how strange and unregulated prison life can become. Now let's go offshore, to prisons surrounded by water. Take Ile du Diable, Devil's Island, off the coast of French Guiana. Used from the mid-1800s to the 1950s, it was the ultimate escape-proof hellhole. Prisoners were dumped on this rocky, shark-infested island with little food, no medical care, and brutal heat. Most either died or went insane. Few escaped, and those who did were swallowed by the jungle or the sea. The island was home to political prisoners too, most famously Captain Alfred Dreyfus, who was wrongfully convicted in a major French scandal. The isolation on Devil's Island was not just physical, it was mental. Inmates would scream for hours just to hear their own voices echo back. It was punishment by silence and solitude. But island prisons aren't always cruel. Some use natural beauty as a tool for rehabilitation. Take Bastøy Prison in Norway. Yes, the same one we mentioned earlier, but now from a location perspective. It sits on a pristine island, surrounded by icy waters. There are no high walls or armed guards, just forests, farmland, and open skies. The environment itself is a psychological tool, a place of healing rather than fear. The idea? If you put people in a setting that feels like freedom, they'll be more likely to behave like free, responsible individuals. It's risky. One boat ride and you're gone. But inmates rarely try. Why? Because escaping would mean giving up the dignity they've earned and returning to the harsh realities of traditional incarceration. Let's now enter a whole new level of bizarre, underground and underwater prison concepts. In the 1960s and 70s, some governments, including the US and Japan, seriously explored the idea of building underwater prisons. The concept? Secure pods anchored to the ocean floor, with no visible entrance or exit. The water pressure and depth would act as a natural barrier, making escape scientifically impossible. Though never fully implemented, these concepts laid the foundation for high-tech confinement methods that use geography as a cage. Today, certain military detention centers are placed in isolated mountain ranges, deserts, or even Arctic environments, where the surroundings themselves are more lethal than any guard. Consider Patak Island Prison in Russia, nicknamed the Alcatraz of the East. Located in the middle of a freezing lake, it holds the country's most dangerous lifers. There's only one narrow bridge to the island, and in winter, the lake freezes into a sheet of ice that guards use as part of their security strategy. The isolation is total. Even the prison guards rotate frequently to avoid developing psychological trauma from the remoteness. And speaking of Alcatraz, it remains one of the most iconic examples of a prison built to be unescapable by nature. Situated on a small island in the San Francisco Bay, surrounded by freezing, violent waters, it was designed to make escape not just difficult, but impossible without death. And yet, even here, in 1962, 3 men vanished during a legendary escape attempt. They were never found. Did they drown? Or did they make it? No one knows. Nature-based prisons are equal parts genius and madness. Some use the natural world as a barrier. Others use it as a tool for reform. But in every case, the message is clear. You may walk free within these boundaries, but nature itself is the wall. These locations prove that prison isn't always about steel bars. Sometimes it's about islands, oceans, and mountains. And often, the most secure prison isn't the one built by man, but the one crafted by nature. After visiting the strangest, harshest, and most luxurious prisons on Earth, one question echoes louder than any prison alarm. What are we really trying to achieve by locking someone away? Is it justice? A fair consequence for crime? Is it madness? A system gone too far? Or is it something darker? An experiment on human behavior? The prisons we've explored in this journey are more than just places with walls and locks. They are reflections of society's values, fears, and contradictions. Some treat prisoners with kindness and hope. Others crush their minds under unbearable weight. Some seem to forget their inmates are even human. Let's pause for a moment and look at what we've seen. We walked through Halden Prison in Norway, a place of healing where inmates are called by their first names and guards serve more like mentors than enemies. We saw Bastoy Island, where rehabilitation is found in silence, sea air, and a sense of purpose. These prisons believe in redemption, in the idea that even the worst among us can change. Then we plunged into Black Dolphin and ADX Florence, where the goal isn't healing, it's total control. Where prisoners are buried in concrete and silence, stripped of identity, and left to slowly dissolve into the walls. These prisons reflect the rage that society sometimes feels, the need to make someone pay, not just with time, but with suffering. And what about the island prisons, the natural traps, the man-made mazes? What are they if not science experiments? Carefully calculated setups that study how long a person can last without hope. Prisons like Petak Island in Russia or San Pedro in Bolivia, where order is shaped not by rules but by chaos, isolation, or self-governance. These aren't just prisons, they're social laboratories, places where we test the boundaries of law, humanity, and endurance. So what's the truth? The truth is, there is no single answer to what prison should be. Across the world, the definition of punishment varies wildly. In Scandinavia, it's a pause, a space for reflection and growth. In parts of Asia and Africa, it's a sentence not just of imprisonment, but of pain, shame, and inhumanity. In some places, it's a business, corruption turning prisons into luxury hotels for the rich or slave camps for the poor. But here's the disturbing part. Most people never ask these questions. To many, prison is just out of sight, out of mind. Once someone is locked up, we stop thinking about them. We assume they're getting what they deserve. But what if the system is broken? What if we're punishing people in ways that are outdated, ineffective, or downright cruel? Consider this. Countries with the harshest prisons often have higher reoffending rates. Meanwhile, those with more humane systems, like Norway or Finland, have far fewer repeat offenders. It raises a powerful question. Do pain and punishment really stop crime, or just create more broken people? And what does it say about us when we build prisons so brutal, so secretive, that even the guards begin to lose their grip on reality? The design of a prison is not just about keeping people inside. It's about what we believe people deserve. It's about fear, power, and sometimes revenge. But when we go too far, when a prison becomes a place of suffering without purpose, we risk becoming the very thing we claim to oppose. Some of the most bizarre prisons we've explored may look strange, but they force us to confront uncomfortable truths. Is solitary confinement a safety tool or psychological torture? Is luxury behind bars a betrayal of justice or a step toward true reform? Is a prison on an island a brilliant security idea or just a new form of exile? There are no easy answers. But one thing is clear. How we treat our prisoners reveals more about our society than how we treat our heroes. Because when someone loses their freedom, they don't stop being human. And when a prison becomes a place where humans are forgotten, we all lose a part of our own humanity too. So the next time you hear about a prison on a mountain, or an underwater jail, or an inmate who lives better than some free citizens, don't just react. Ask why. Ask what that prison says about the country, the culture, and the idea of justice itself. Because inside the world's most bizarre prisons, behind every strange rule and twisted design, lies a deeper question. Are we building prisons to hold people accountable, or to hide them from our conscience? This concludes your journey inside the world's most bizarre prisons. If this shocked you, disturbed you, or made you think, share your thoughts. Because the conversation about justice should never be locked away.